Wow, the cast is so good when they really get into these adventures, and oh, that escalated quickly. I dreaded this episode coming out a little because I was going into it with something that has ruined a lot of people's experience with this show: expectations. I was going into the show with things I wanted to see happen, and recognizing that there were also things I didn't want to see happen at all, but knew were very distinct possibilities. But one thing I wanted that did happen was for it to be entertaining. Clearly, more shows need characters to have the ability to shoot each other in the face with no consequences because everyone was great in this. I had no idea that Pomni and Jax would make such a fun team when they really got into it, but they really got into it. Zooble and Gangle continue to be a really supportive duo, and Kinger is justifying all the many votes he got in the popularity poll. Ragatha has even managed to recover a bit from the rut the last episode put her into, even if she wasn't as into the shooting as everyone else. But before we log into the Jax and Pomni show, let's dig into the rest of the cast. This will all be relevant.
Of course not. You're Zooble.
Zooble asked Caine to give them all the ability to have sex. Humanity has clearly peaked. Who do you think they had in mind? It was interesting to see more on Gangle's feelings about her feelings. As we saw when they were at work, she has a tendency to swing really hard into the emotions her masks show, even if it's detrimental to her and she hates it about herself. On top of that, we see that her expression of joy is much clearer on the sad mask than it is on the happy one. Zooble is the only other member of the cast with a weird body trait that seems to be embodying her problems, particularly body dysmorphia. And there is a strong sense about the advice of actively choosing to love yourself being spoken from experience. The circus has an odd way of personifying their problems into reality, and that makes them feel different, but those feelings still stem from a base humanity. Gangle talks about feeling like she exists to be Jax's toy, a result of the constant abuse and the way everything about her is shaped. But Zooble reminds her that she's still human. That's a big theme in this episode, remembering that you're human, whether you want to or not.
You feeling alright?
It's kind of funny to think back to the build-up of this episode with people theorizing about the breakup of Ragatha and Pomni's friendship and Pomni rejecting the doll for the rabbit and them fighting and all that, and then we come to this episode and it was Ragatha's idea. Because really, Pomni has never actually rejected Ragatha. She's just also tried to be friends with Jax. Things are awkward between them at times, but those are usually the results of the fact that they're different people and so they disagree sometimes. Like on playing sports. Really, it seems like the fan base really bought into Ragatha's own negative feelings about herself and her relationships, which makes this episode coming out and addressing all that funny in hindsight. Ragatha wanted to keep Kinger from being on Jax's team, but she also very much doesn't want to be on his team as well, and that leaves Pomni to work with the rabbit. It's a move that makes the most sense, but it further makes Ragatha feel insecure about the relationship because she's taking an unnecessary amount of responsibility for the things happening around her. And that makes it interesting that she believes that she's failed Jax, raising questions about their history. As I said in my last video, Ragatha's coping mechanism is more self-destructive than anything else, and when people don't react positively to it, she begins to think that they hate her. Fortunately, Kinger in the Dark is the wisest character on this show, and he's able to help her relax about it while reassuring her that she has helped him, and that relationships are a two-way street that she shouldn't stress so much about.
Now, let's see how many of them voted for me.
This AI might lose his mind before everyone else in the show. The way the characters just don't play along with him is clearly getting to him and his sense of controlling the situation. His coping mechanism is pretty much just rebooting and forgetting anything that gets in the way of his programming, but it does not seem to be really working out for him. Because obviously, no one likes him. He's an integral part of this situation that they all hate being in. But he can't handle that because his job is to entertain them, and that's so deeply tied with the idea of them liking him. But they don't. When he finally breaks, it's gonna be incredible.
You...
I'm sorry.
I'm sure you are.
This episode confirms everything we've thought about Jaxs and then digs even deeper. He explains the attitude he approaches the circus with in order to get Pomni to go along with the activity. He embraces the craziness and rejects his humanity in order to play his role, be it the villain or the funny one. In this way, Jaxs does make things more fun because he talked Pomni into playing a role, and she picked being evil. Because of this attitude, team bad guys manage to be the ones that enjoy themselves the most and come out on top as they embrace the insanity of the situation.
What is all this gibberish?
It's gonna be a long night.
But the thing is, Jaxs doesn't stop playing his role. If he did, he wouldn't be so ostracized by everyone else in the circus. But if he stops being the asshole, he's gonna have to take a step back into reality. Because while the circus and their bodies may not be real, their minds definitely are. And that is arguably the thing Jaxs wants to be the least real out of everything else. Because he has no interest in the introspection such a thing would force him to do. It's so apt that Gangle talks about feeling like Jax's toy because that's not only how Jaxs sees everyone, it's also how he's trying to see himself. Just a toy that can bounce back from any damage. A character in a cartoon with a defined role that will cause them no pain. And he adheres to that idea religiously. I think that's why Jaxs focuses on her so much, going so far as to even team up with her all the time. They cope in similar ways of masking their emotions, but Jaxs just naturally comes across as enjoying himself and has a much easier time of burying his feelings deeper than she does. Also, he may have only really started doing all that in response to the circus, so it wasn't made a factor of his character design the way it was for Gangle. It makes you wonder though, is he breaking her masks on purpose? All this is just an even more convincing act. From as early as episode 1, you can see that he cares far more than he wants anyone to know. He's clearly bothered by Ragatha's implication that he's just trying to corrupt Pomni. You can feel it in how he shoots her. I haven't felt so emotionally affected by a fictional woman getting shot multiple times since Ponzu got shot by that freaking ant. You can tell by watching his eyes. When they're small, we're getting a peek into the human expressions he tries so hard to hide, and when they get bigger and more unrealistic, that's him really playing into the role. Watching him stop talking about something that clearly bothers him in order to reinforce his persona was just unsettling. Jaxs can pretend he wasn't having fun with Pomni all he wants, but even she doesn't believe that. I mean, he actually apologized for shooting her, like a real human being. Ultimately, he's scared. We know he once had a friend that has since probably abstracted, and is clearly distancing himself from everyone over it. When Jaxs says he would move on if Pomni abstracted, that's only in reference to the archetype he's playing, hence the eyes. Jaxs the cartoon character wouldn't care, so he had no intention of doing so either. During their argument, Jaxs starts out by doing exactly what he's always done, being a dick and pushing away the people around him, denying that they're friends because everything's just about having fun for him. But Pomni sees right through him and starts digging, which unbalances him. Jaxs thinks in archetypes and he's pretty self-aware of the archetype he's actually playing at. It's the one half his fandom has been analyzing his character to be all this time. A self-destructive jackass. And he has no intention of being made to confront that reality about himself when that's what he's been avoiding. Where Ragatha fears being ignored and disliked by everyone, Jaxs wears that ignorance and disliking. I probably could have used better words for those if I wasn't ad-libbing this part of the script. Anyway, Jaxs wears it like armor in order to protect himself from himself and the reaction he'd probably be having to everything that's around if he wasn't coping so hard. I believe his insistence on making Pomni shoot him is to try and create a confirmation that he successfully pushed her away. He keeps telling her to do it and she keeps not. So he digs himself even deeper into the hole rather than let Pomni pull him out. If it was that easy, Ragatha would probably have done it by now. But she does make him work in order to get that shovel. Honestly, a breakdown in Jaxs and Pomni's newfound friendship is hardly a twist ending, but the specifics were unexpected. Jax clearly enjoyed Pomni's company but pushed her away on purpose, and she fought back and refused to let him do it because what he was doing was just that obvious. The fact they're both aware of what's happening makes it so much more entertaining, because instead of becoming a more cliche argument, it becomes a contest of how unpleasant Jax can make himself in order to get her to stop digging. But as much as Jax works to ignore his humanity and throw himself into his role as a cartoon rabbit, when he's alone, looking at his reflection, he only has one thing to say.
God, you look stupid.
Which makes it interesting that his tail is back in this episode. Clearly, the stress of his persona is reaching untenable levels after pushing Pomni away, and considering how he described people who are about to abstract as unpleasant, Jax may not be long for this circus. Shout out to my patrons, A and Skyman. What did you think of Jax in this episode? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and good day.